We organize businesses is in 3 steps. So architect, which name of your show, architect, build, operate. So when I first started organizing businesses, I would architect and I would focus on structure. So think processes and workflows, tools and technology, meeting cadence, calendar system. I really focused just on the structure. So then I realized, okay, I need psychological systems and social systems in order to prevent that from happening. So it couldn't just be structure, it had to be both.
Welcome to the Business Growth Architect Show. I am Beate Gillette. I am the host. I want to welcome you to our globally top 10% ranked podcast, where you will hear from industry experts about the strategies that are working right now to unlock hidden opportunities in any market so that you can grow your authority and scale your impact. And now let's get started with the show. Welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Beate Gillette, and I am inviting and welcoming Stasi Gray today on our show. And you guys are going to be in for something a little bit different because today is stern mom face conversation with entrepreneurs and business owners. And the only one I want to have this conversation with is you, Staci. So welcome to the show.
I didn't do my stern face very well. I'm so happy to be here, but I can be stern too.
Very good. So tell us a little bit who you are and what you do.
So my name's Stasi Gray. I have a company called Organize to Scale. And what I do is I help people implement systems so they can really generate the type of freedom that they want in their business. And most entrepreneurs set out to build businesses to create some type of freedom, but end up trapped in the very thing that was designed to create their freedom. So what I do is help them in a lot of ways get out of their own way, going back to the stern mom conversation, and implement systems, not just structural systems, but psychological systems and social systems, including the right team, so that they can really gain traction in their business and scale.
So the number one thing that I hear, that you hear, that I think everybody who does what we do, strategies and systems is just the least sexy part about the business. What are you seeing is in the entrepreneur and the business owner world, the big issue between freedom and creating really a chain themselves to the business? What is it that they're not seeing?
I think in a lot of ways, visionary entrepreneurs or founding entrepreneurs don't see how who they are and how they're being impacts the business's ability to have structure and daily discipline and operational excellence. And it's sometimes a self-sabotaging process. And then they have a revolving door of people because they put different people in place and they just don't think they have the right person. But it's often a character development that we have to look in the mirror as visionary leaders and say, this is actually not working. I'm doing something that is having a ripple effect inside of my organization that is hurting my ability to serve my customers on the level I want to serve them. It's hurting the consistency, which is so critical in day-to-day operations, and it's hurting the team and tribe and community and culture that I'm trying to build that is really... If you're building and scaling a business, you want the journey to be enjoyable, not just the destination. Because in building and scaling a business, there's always bigger, better, more. We can keep chasing and chasing and chasing and pushing. And if we don't figure out a way to enjoy the journey and take people along that we really enjoy being around, then it's never going to be fulfilling. And we won't really gain that internal freedom, but even that external freedom in terms of time, money, geographic freedom.
What you said is, I think, the biggest blind spot for entrepreneurs. What is it that drives them to needing to be, can I just say this out loud, the business narcissist? They say, look at me, look at me, that this was my idea, I created this. Are there any awards for that?
So I think, I do think a lot of high D visionary entrepreneurs can be narcissistic. I also think that the blind spot, whether we label it narcissism or not, I think the real blind spot is that person has eat, breathe, slept, showered, dreamt about this business idea for decades, years. It's so ingrained in who they are that they don't see even the scope and sequence of execution. They just see the end product and they want it done yesterday. And their drive hard, which is a powerful trait of an entrepreneur, is the ability to push through obstacles and keep moving forward. And that is a strength. However, I think the part that makes them come across as narcissistic is because they've internalized it so much, they don't think it's that difficult. It should just be simple. You could just do X, Y, and Z. It should be done. Why don't you just do that? And they don't understand that, one, the vision needs to be translated and articulated in a way that the people around you can support you, because you're never going to organize and scale a business by yourself, period. It's going to take, whether it's a team, whether it's customers, it takes people around you. So you have to be able to rally community and tribe and not have significant turnover, because if you have significant turnover, whether it's customers, team members, systems, you're continually falling back instead of really getting that solid foundation that you need. So I don't think they necessarily intend to come across as narcissistic. I think they just struggle with slowing down enough, even their own nervous system and their own thinking, slowing down enough to look and say, okay, for me to accomplish this, what, not just the outcome that I want, but what do I want it to feel like in the process? And we're so outcome focused that sometimes we neglect the journey.
So you work with a lot of businesses that are desiring to scale their business, but then they don't actually want to do the work that it takes to scale. So if we now have this stern mom conversation, and this is like you've come to this inflection point, this is what you need to know. If somebody says, I want to scale, what actually do they need to know? What is the consequence of that statement?
So I often tell people, because I've had this conversation, is in order for you to scale, you have to scale yourself. And it's not about personal development, it's about character development. And that's going to be the hardest journey you're going to go on as a founding entrepreneur. Is who you are today is not the person that is going to allow you to scale. You are going to have to change, and it's not changing your external. To your point, it's not different strategy. It's not different systems. It's changing who you are and your psychology and your mindset and your perspective. And so much so that it impacts your habits, your communication style, and how you're able to show up in meetings, in all of the strategy systems, all of those things, but you have to change. And unless you're willing to look in the mirror and call out all of the things that you're hiding or running from by blaming, then you're not going to be able to scale.
Let's talk about how this shows up in like an example, what that would look like.
Sure. I think we've all had the visionary entrepreneur that's like, okay, I have this idea and I'm going to do a webinar, and I'm going to do this social media blitz, this webinar. I'm going to get all of these leads in, and I want to launch it in 30 days. And then the team starts going in that direction. And then 15 days in, the visionary comes back and says, oh, I got a new idea. Now, what I also want to do is I want to do this happy hour networking event with all of the business owners nearby. Can you start working on that too? And so then the team is 15 days into doing the thing that you asked them to do. Now they're confused, they're distracted, they're trying to launch another initiative at the same time that they're launching the initial initiative. And without a strong integrator and without a strong team, that visionary will continually do that. Whereas if that visionary could self-regulate, which would be powerful, to realize that, oh, I just had this new idea. It doesn't fit yet. I'm tabling it, and have that disciplined thinking. That is what needs to change. But that person isn't willing to make that change. They think, oh, I just need to hire more people. I just need more people doing more things at the same time. Or this initiative just needs to generate enough revenue so I don't have to slow down my ability to drive all of my initiatives at one time.
Good. So part number one then is to take a good hard look at yourself and to say, am I creating the issue or am I solving the issue? And if I'm solving, what am I trying to solve? And is what I expect realistic? Because when you are doing this by yourself, it's very different. I had a great quote somebody gave me the other day and says, if you want to go there fast, run yourself. If you want to get there, if you want to achieve more, you go together. And I really liked that idea. So the fast in the building of the idea does have a spot in the development of that, the passion, the connection, the pushing out the business model, the articulating it, the founding the business, the kind of like getting it first off the ground. So once this initial phase is over and I realize I've maxed out my time, because this is like the first big hurdle. My number is I know that people can get to about $1 million by themselves, but that is the burnout formula. So if you're doing about 1 million on your own, we can count the days for you until your body gives out or your relationship, because you have no options other than to crash something. You're either going to crash the business, crash your relationship, or you crash yourself. So there comes a point, so again, stern mom face, where we sit you down and we say, okay, you've done really great. This has been amazing. Now, what do you want this business to be? Do you want it to remain at the $250,000, $350,000 consulting? You can do that by yourself. That's time for money. But now the person says, no, Staci, I'm coming to you because I want to scale it. So take me through what needs to happen now in this character development, number one, which you just mentioned, and what needs to happen in the other parts of this entrepreneur and how he or she looks at what that will look like, because it's about relinquishing control over certain things, hiring people that are better at you. So what happens in their minds?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Can I answer this in a long way?
You can answer it any way you want.
So the way we organize businesses is in 3 steps. So architect, which name of your show, architect, build, operate. So when I first started organizing businesses, I would architect and I would focus on structure. So think processes and workflows, tools and technology, meeting cadence, calendar system. I really focused just on the structure. And we would say, okay, in the architect phase, what do you want this business to do for you? What kind of lifestyle? Okay, how are we going to put parameters, workflows, people in place to do that? Then we would go build that infrastructure that they needed. And then we would plug people in the operate phase to operate it. So kind of like real estate, you create a blueprint, you construct it, you put a property manager and tenants in place. That's what we would do. But then what would happen is that the psychology of the visionary entrepreneur would come disrupt everything that got set up. So then I realized, okay, I need psychological systems and social systems in order to prevent that from happening. So it couldn't just be structure, it had to be both. So the psychological systems is every person, and primarily starting with the visionary entrepreneur, is they have to get their body right. Because if your body isn't right, you can't think right. And if you can't think right, you can't manage your emotions. So in order to manage your psychology, you have to have your body, your mind, and your emotions in check. That means that a new idea can't trigger you and send you spiraling. A mistake by an employee can't make you yell at them and then cause that person not to want to do a good job for you. So they had to develop the psychological systems, which is really more coaching and mentoring and daily discipline and habits. And then you also have to have parameters, because visionary entrepreneurs get trapped, I believe, in one of 2 ways. One is they're so passionate, they run like wild. Like you said, they hit that million and then they just burn out. Or they have a lack of systems. And it's all systems, psychological, structural, and social systems. But knowing visionary entrepreneurs, most are very social beings. They like interpersonal, they're usually more outgoing, they drive hard, not all, but a lot have a little bit more of that extroverted energy, because that's what attracts the clients and customers to them. Well, in order for them to be able to have those daily disciplines, they need those social structures. So they have to change who they hang around. If they're hanging around with people that are not disciplined and their team is not disciplined and their tribe of people are not disciplined, they're going to be less disciplined. Personal development 101. If you want to change who you are, change who you hang around. And But some people don't struggle with that because when you are, say, getting to that million part, you're so wound up that it starts self destructing sooner than you're able to catch it. And if you don't have people around you calling it out that you trust, you're going to sabotage. You need your tribe, your mentors, your integrator, in addition to the systems and the disciplines and everything else, so that you can stay structured and maintained while you scale and you're not backsliding and the foundation isn't crumbling.
I think this is all about creating an infrastructure and an infrastructure on multiple levels, which I find absolutely fascinating. So, we will be right back after this quick message and talk more about how to set up an infrastructure that supports you as the entrepreneur. Are you looking for the hidden opportunities for you in this market? Or are you simply wanting to figure out what is your unique differentiation factor that makes clients want to work with you and not your competitors? If this resonates, I want to invite you to go to uncoverysession.com and schedule your 15-minute complimentary uncovery session with one of our business growth advisors that will take you through what your number one business growth blocker is, what you can do to remove it, and what your very best next step should be. And now let's get back to the show. Welcome back. Beate Gillette here with Stasi Gray talking about, honestly, to me, this sounded like the infrastructure of success, because you said, I need to change myself. I need to understand what I'm trying to achieve. I also need to have my mom conversation of uh, don't keep changing the rules. This is what we're eating tonight. That's what we're eating tonight. We can eat the other thing tomorrow, but tonight, that's what we agreed upon. And then you said something very interesting, which I really haven't heard a lot before. It's almost like it reminds me of like the AA philosophy. If you're an alcoholic and you want to get clean or sober, you cannot hang around the people that got you in the trouble in the first place. I have never heard this in the context of entrepreneurship. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, or give me like a case scenario or something where you came up with that? Because it's a very, very unique concept. It's like if you around a bunch of ADHD people that do nothing other than brainstorm and throw ideas around all day long, then are you training your brain to be that too? How do I get out of this addiction, this idea addiction?
Oh, I love that. Yes. I didn't even call it an idea addiction or even parallel it to AA, but I can totally see that overlap. An example specifically. So I think oftentimes, take the hiring process. We hire based on, I like a visionary entrepreneur who's energetic, outgoing, likes people. They're going to hire people that relate to them on that level and it feels good. So now you have a whole team of people who actually are wired very similar to the way you're wired. Now your infrastructure and your team and your organization is that same dynamic, that same energy, and they will ideate with you. So your idea addiction, you're feeding with who you're hiring because you have people that will ideate with you. Whereas, so if you are a visionary idea person and you hire somebody that, say, is much more analytical, much more slow to make decisions, much more quiet and introverted in their way they process, it's going to ruffle your feathers. It's going to rub you the wrong way, but it's going to be the best thing for you because it's going to balance out or harmonize the strength of you. But that will only work if you trust that person. You trust that they understand your vision, they have your back, they want what you want, and they're going to protect you from yourself. And we need those people in our lives because if we don't have that counterbalance to our maverick energy, then we will just be all maverick and we won't really have an organization that has discipline and structure and traction and scalability. We'll have something that is going to snowball and then implode.
Yes, the awareness though of that. So, I'm thinking this through here out loud because I am rewarded financially and with my clients who tell me how great I am. And I'm in whatever the entrepreneur organization and YPO improvisers and whatever a networking or other organization I might be. And everybody tells me how great I am. I am now living in the belief that I am great. And that's one of the signs of entrepreneurship, because it's the 101 on mindset. If you don't believe it, there's nobody else that's convincing you of the other thing. So isn't that almost like a controversy and built-in controversy? Because on the one hand, I read all my spiritual books and it says you must believe to achieve. If you can dream it, you can do it. And I am. And here you are, and you're like crashing my plane, smack,
Yes.
smack on the
No,
ground.
what I'm giving is healthy tension. We call it healthy tension.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me more.
Like if you have a structure that you're trying to erect, right? You have to have tension to balance it. If you don't have tension, it will fall over. So this is the most powerful thing that I think we don't look at, because we have to believe. We have to believe that we can erect the structure that we're looking to erect. We have to believe that we can achieve. And that is, so to what you're saying is so true. We have to be able to believe that. And we have to realize, in order for that structure to be erect and us to achieve that success and that growth that we're looking for, it has to be reinforced with tension that anchors it. And so when we surround people that only want to skyrocket with us and don't reinforce the structure, it's going to fall over. And any of those YPO, EO, Founders Club, I've been in all the groups. I know, I watch entrepreneurs do this, and it's a large reason. And I've even done it myself in a few of my businesses, because it's hard to slow down enough to look in the mirror when opportunity after opportunity is coming. But if you chase all the opportunity and scale too fast, you're going to fall over. Scale too slow, you lose momentum. And that's the art of entrepreneurship. And like you said, we focus so much on structure and systems, we lose the art of it. And that's the spirit of it.
Would it be fair to say that if I could give a visual, and I'm completely riffing here, if the visual would be that my vision is my why, but that the other part you talk about is my how. So if I were to give it almost like an hourglass where the sand slowly trickles, sometimes the why has to trickle through to the how. And then we have to wait until the how does it thing. And then it's time for another why or another idea. Would that be, in your philosophy, a fair assessment, or do you have a better one?
Yes, no, I like that. I also think that as a visionary, if we're talking to the maverick visionary entrepreneur, that person has to have why and who, and their integrator has to have how. And then they have to trust their integrator, that the integrator is going to move all those grains of salt through the hourglass and let you know when it's time to start again.
Okay, good. So I think this is a very powerful takeaway from the understanding that your ideas are the why, and then you need to have the who is going to take these ideas and then execute them, and then the how, making sure that these pieces that we have said are actually executed, and that that's not detrimental to the business, but that is the natural flow. And the quicker you calm down and allow that to happen, the faster we can.
Right. I also think the way to calm down, I think a lot of visionary entrepreneurs, just entrepreneurs in general, whether they're more wide visionary or integrator, we have been labeled control freaks. People around us call us control freaks. We want to be involved, or we abdicate and we're hands off and we do the exact opposite. So I have found it helpful in the structures that are set up that we also provide as a visionary the KPIs that we want to see. And so that's the discipline the visionary can bring to the organization is, I want gross profit to be X. I want lead gen to be X. I want conversion to be X. However we go about doing it, I'll ideate with you, I'll plan with you, but this is your job, is to hit these metrics. And then we can sit back and continue to play our role in sharing the why, continuing to advertise the why, continuing to support the who's. So all the who's that are running around, making sure every little piece of grain of salt makes it through the hourglass, we support them in giving us the metric that we need to continue to make good decisions for the organization, which would then be good decisions for me as a visionary and you as an integrator. and also for every team and customer and the organization as a whole.
Excellent. And for anybody who just heard the term KPI, that's a key performance indicator. And do look for our interview with Jeff Smith, who is the creator of the KPIs that you'll also find on the Business Growth Architect show. A very, very powerful little add on here. My final question to you, Staci, would be, what should entrepreneurs, business owners, visionaries, founders say no more often to?
Shiny pennies.
What is a shiny penny? Everything. It's a squirrel.
Idea addiction. I think you said it perfectly. We have to be able to say no to every idea. The thing that we are masterful at is ideating, but it's also the thing that can be our greatest strength, can also be our greatest weakness. And so have an idea book, journal your ideas, but don't share every idea with everybody. And don't try to monetize every idea. Sometimes you're just given the idea to share it with another entrepreneur that actually executes it. And that's okay. Like, you have to keep your main thing the main thing and say no to the noise that's not your main thing.
I had a great quote from somebody. I'm facilitating a couple of groups, and one of the women said, at this part in my life, I have to learn that not every idea I have, I need a monetization scheme for.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
She says sometimes it's just an idea, and I can just let it be the idea without the testing on whether or not it's a viable business model and all these other things. It's fascinating to me. Is there anything that we didn't cover, Staci, that you want to add on to this spirited conversation with Stern Mom Face?
I would only say that I feel like in entrepreneurship, in leadership, it can be hard at times. So everyone who's out there listening, who's in the arena doing it, especially the time that we're recording this, the world and the economy are the way they are. You're in the arena, you're doing it, and keep doing it. And there's always going to be other aspects of who we need to become and who we need to surround ourselves with that need to evolve. And like you said, you're gonna have a vegetable, broccoli or asparagus. Like, lean in, have it, get the lesson, and then keep doing it, because you're doing amazing work. Everyone out there who's building businesses right now and making an impact, it matters.
Thank you so much for that. And for somebody who now has heard about your philosophies and wants to connect with you or work with you, where would we send them?
Yeah, I actually have an email with a bunch of free resources on the processes that we go through in this. So they can send an email to scale@organizedtoscale.com, and it will just send them a bunch of insights and how to connect with me on social media as well.
Excellent. I like that. Plain and simple. Staci, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I admire you. I think you got a very good way of looking at these things. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for all the journey you're on too.
Thank you. And that's it for us today. Please make sure you subscribe and share this episode with one other person. And until we see each other again next time, and goodbye. Thank you for listening to or watching the show. We are so excited that you're here, and we are very grateful for you. Now it's our turn to ask you for help. Please do share this episode with one other person that needs to hear what we were talking about today. If there's any question you have about business, please do reach out to us and let us know. And don't forget to schedule your complimentary uncovery session at uncoverysession.com, where one of our business growth advisors will help you to figure out what your number one business growth blocker is in only 15 minutes. And that's it for us today. Until next time.